Thank you for joining us this Magis program expectations. I will just say that a big expectation that should be met by all students in the Magis program is making sure that they sign up for a one-on-one check-in with myself, unless they are working directly with Mr. Lorenzo. And your child would know that if they are meeting with Mr. Lorenzo, but most students are meeting with me. So please encourage your child, if they haven't already done so this semester, to set up a one-on-one check-in with me to meet that expectation. And they can either email me to find a time, or they can use the link that I share in the newsletter, or that's at the bottom of my signature, my email signature, to set up a one-on-one appointment. There's a general question around summer courses to accelerate. How do students arrange to take classes over the summer to accelerate? My understanding of that is when the course selection opens, students will meet with their personal and academic counselor. They can also meet with Mr. Lorenzo, who's part of the Magis program staff, to get some support with just generally selecting classes for the next year, and also understanding their trajectory over the rest of their years at SI. And if it is decided that a student would like to take a summer class to accelerate, they can prepare for that. I think the summer classes open. Do you remember when they open around, Ms. Vaccaro?
We'll advertise it, and then there is a very big day. So when you register for those classes, make sure to do it 6 a.m. that day, because some of the popular ones, geometry accelerated, chemistry, physics, gets filled up very quickly.
Like the geometry summer class before the summer of sophomore year, that class is very popular. So we encourage students to try to sign up for that. The parents are generally by the computer getting ready to sign up their children when that opens. And we'll send out information about when that becomes available. And the first one is around SCORE, Ms. Vaccaro. Can you talk about SCORE account access for parents? What is SCORE? What is SCORE?
I'm going to share one of my desktops, and then we could go back to this format as well too. But here's a student account, and it is SCORE, not Squire, like a lot of people say. But SCORE is basically an information system that helps students all throughout St. Ignatius to find information about colleges, to organize that college plan about researching different schools. So if I wanted to learn more and then find deadline dates. Let's say if I wanted today at our college fair, Scripps College came by, it will give me a lot of different information. It'll pop up in a minute, a virtual tour, tell me academics. And what's a great, cool tool about this, these averages are the averages for the college nationwide. But if I go to this feature, it'll tell me the predictions of our students getting into the campus, and then also a scattergram, seeing how our students have done well, whether they got accepted, where your student is, and then if they're waitlisted. Now, the interaction with SCORE varies every grade level. So with freshmen, where they're going to be introduced to SCORE. And then sophomores already have that. And then you may say, but where is my login as a parent and guardian? And you're absolutely right. So when they get assigned their college counselor the spring semester of their sophomore year, you will get a link to register, and then you will have your parent portal, your student will have their portal. But feel free, there's one of the questions that we'll talk about that stress level a little bit later, to pick that one day out of the week to look at it together, but having a time limit. College is very important. Opportunities are very important, and that's what this toolkit is. But it's also, we don't want to be, there is a parent that I've known that went in 1 year 73 times on SCORE. So we want to have a balanced schedule of both you, your wonderful student, and you at home using this tool. So
is there SCORE access for parents?
Yes, but it starts at this time. The counseling department wants to give that SCORE access the spring semester of their sophomore year when the college counselors get assigned. I don't know if there'll be any changes, but that's what it is right now, where that's when parents will have access to that.
The next question is, what are some strategies for finding a college that fits your child's needs?
So important. So let's look at score. It's not the perfect tool. I'm going to be very honest. And actually, let me pause there for a minute. What I think a lot of times for you as a parent should be an observer, what worked right and what didn't work right in middle school? What's working right in high school and what's not working right? No institution is perfect, but you as an observer of your wonderful students should know the pluses and minuses. And then take that one day out of the week, 10 to 30 minutes, no more, and says, well, if they had to design their own type of university, what would it have? Right. But I tell students first focus on the needs versus the want. Like, I need there to be maybe a certain major, or maybe I have a learning profile, need that support, or I need another Magis program. And that's ways that you could find that. And so when you are on a score, whether you can do it now or not, there's a button called Discover. And if parents want to play with the tool themselves, I'll give you another great website to use if you don't have access to SCORE. But I could click here on colleges. I could say, hey, I want to have 4-year degrees. I could open this up to a filter, and you have access to about 2,000 schools, right? So if I want a major that's not offered at a lot of places, like biotechnology, my student needs a small atmosphere, right? There's so many different features where you could talk about the different locations. Maybe you don't want a school that's too hard to get into. I'm skipping a lot because I want to make sure we have time for all the questions. But you could see, like, I could play with this a lot. Maybe I want a school that's not too hard, but somewhat challenging, and then a little bit less, right? And then that way, and if I'm clicking too many features, here 11 colleges now that popped on my list. I could say, hey, let's go and compare these 4 schools. By the way, all these schools meet, it doesn't say it on here, but does meet 100% need, all these schools. And so now I have a little bit of an idea. While they are average test scores here, please know majority of schools are test optional. They just advertise that information. And I get a snapshot of some different campuses, knowing the diversity of the program. And that can help the student to go and decide, okay, well, maybe I want to go check out Bates College, right? And then I could go on the website to go find out more information. And that search menu is good. And now your students have so many more tools. They have YouTube, they have Instagram. The key thing is to start, and I'm a big believer starting with baby steps. In case there's parents out there, sorry, I clicked the wrong thing, where you want to, like, well, I don't have access to SCORE. How do I do this? Wrong website. 1 second. Because we do, just to let you know, when we give you a website, we always do nonprofits or the federal governments. There are scams out there, so thank you for taking the time looking here. But you can also go here, and this will give you pretty much the same information as is provided by the federal government. You can see there's a filter system over here. And when you, the thing that this system, the college scorecard, does provide that SCORE doesn't, they'll show you the average salary of students who graduate from that school, right? They'll also show you, if we go down to diversity, well, diversity of students is important, but also how many of them come from socioeconomic diversity, right? So 10% of students get the Pell Grant, like given to all students from low-income families, but also they get to see what the percentage of the diversity of their professors. So the dark colors are the professors and their students. We could always dive deeper, but that is a good general start for families and students.
Thank you, Ms. Vaccaro. One more question that's kind of general, but how do you navigate the stress? Some tips to navigate the stress for the parents versus the students.
I think it's really important for you, the parent and guardian, to take care of yourself first. If you are stressed out, and Oh, in case you don't know, I have 4 kids and I'm not an expert. I'm still learning. But if you don't take care of yourself, parents and guardians, your child's going to feel that. And you may say, but I have to take care of this. I have to work this extra shift. Then that doesn't, there are things that you need to make sure that you get your sleep and your care, because you're also their best role model for them too. So I cannot emphasize that enough. I know I have learned some great gifts from my parents, beautiful gifts, but also some other gifts about self-care that I'm still working on today. And that's okay. And that's okay to communicate with your kid. One is a better day versus a not. I had a beautiful second grader who was talking to me like, I know my parent is so busy and stressed. And I'm like, well, then send them a message when they could talk. So if you as parents or you students could set up a time once a week to connect. And what I mean, like at the dinner table, no cell phones around, or if you have one of those work schedules. And I grew up with my parents where somebody was out at 5 o'clock in the morning, and then my mom was out at 3 p.m. because of their type of career paths that they had. At least we sometimes had that weekend. There was that one day out of the week where we were a family, not talking about college, not talking about homework, not complaining, just having that fun, because they will become young adults. They will be graduating from high school before you know it. So yeah, it's really that basic stuff. Now, at the same time, if I need to tell my kid what to do, right? Like, what if the grades are struggling? What's the homework? Well, then it's important to have that once a week where you check in, right? Don't check on Power School grades every day, but pick that one day. And then after that conversation, maybe create that to-do list on the refrigerator. Everyone needs to go to that refrigerator. And then if things are not being fulfilled, and it should be a laundry list, just make small, short goals, 1 or 2, then check in and see what's going. And then sometimes, I don't know about your household, but a lot of times on mine, that those goals don't get met. And then you're like, oh, and you're a student and you are not alone. You remember, every student has a personal academic counselor. Your students have the wellness center. You have Ms. Hernandez, Mr. Lorenzo, right? You have this whole team of individuals. Many of your students are in affinity groups. You do not need to do this alone. So communication, emphasizing self-care, putting away the devices, going out as a family, have fun. And sometimes I even tell my husband, don't ask him, is this okay, have fun? Let's just go. Let's just do, because those are going to be the memories you're going to enjoy the most versus other things about, talking about grades in college all the time.
Thank you, Ms. Vaccaro. Okay, the next question is very similar to the first one in the Q&A box, so we'll go with that one. And thank you for putting in your questions. Again, please feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A box. It's when do college applications generally get submitted? Recognizing that schools are different, UCs versus state schools, etc.
Yeah, and I wish I could just give you a simple timeline, but I'm going to give you tell you when's the earliest, when's the latest, and then when's the recommended, once I figure out what's going on with my hair over here. Okay, there we go. All right. So the earliest a student can submit for applications for if it's on Common App, and what is Common App? And by the way, I know there were some questions about what should my kid be doing. I'm going to put this PDF, because I know it's hard to read, from SCORE, which we use about a little bit of a checklist. So you have access to that now. Sorry, all these notifications came on my computer. Give me one little minute and say, bye-bye, it's not your time now. When you go to Common App, it's the application to over, oh my goodness, I think 1,000 colleges. Yeah, 1,000 colleges, even international schools. And it opens up August 1st every year. Many of your beautiful students already started their accounts because it saves key information for their general application. So students can submit as early as August 1st. It's not recommended that they send it that early because you don't want to rush it. But there's some schools that will say, hey, Arizona State University, hey, we give you a free application. You apply right now. No essay required. You're in. And you think, is this legit? Yeah. There are some schools, if you didn't see that pop-up menu when I went on Common App at first, there are some schools that are not super selected, that want your students. You know, they're working hard on all their classes, and colleges are aware of that. Our students are do really great work getting into college. But that's the earliest for the Common App schools. When we're talking about UC schools, the earliest happened yesterday, October 1st. Cal State University opened up, and that's the earliest too. And then the latest, there are some schools that have like rolling admissions. And what's rolling admissions? Rolling admissions is some campuses not too far away from us. Dominican University in San Rafael, a Catholic school, small, beautiful, has taken good care of a lot of our Magis students, where they have rolling admissions, meaning, hey, if they have spots July of after their graduation year, they could apply and get in. But that's the earliest and that's the latest. What's the recommended? All right, so this is where I expect you to write your notes. If you're driving, just listen. Don't worry, we'll repeat this. This is Vacaro's recommended list because it goes back to the previous question, less stress. Because stress causes mistakes, right? And so this is why it's so great you guys being here, looking at a checklist. So all the students should be they're always working on their college application. Just know that when they're working with their grades, their club, their affinity groups. But usually in the month of September, that is if a student has done all the work they did junior year, from September to October is a great month to submit your Common App application. Why you want to do that? Because there are some schools that have special early deadlines for early action, which gives them easier access for admissions. Also, they have deadlines for merit scholarship honors program. So this is a safeguard to make sure they don't miss those deadlines. Common App also is a scholarship applications. Colleges give the most scholarships, more than any other program. So that's where they can get the most money. And then because a lot of students apply early action, so if we go to my fake student that I have here, you could see, like there's a lot of deadlines that you'll see February, January, but a lot of seniors this year have deadlines as early as October 15, November 1st. So they focus on those Common App schools because they'll have, for one school, you could have 5 different essays, 3 different essays, and that's for one. Now times that by 3, that adds up. Then what students do once they finish those Common App schools in the month of October, hopefully before, and I really recommend before November 15th, that they go ahead and submit their UC application as well as their Cal State applications. And just to make sure that it's all done before Thanksgiving, before we have that nice 1 long week break. And why do we want to why I say September, October? Families, unless you love taxes, October 1st is when tax season, financial aid begins. The schools that I just showed you, Bates College, you see on the screen right now, Boston College, Babson. You may have not heard of it, but they're very generous financially. Boston College, where we have some Magis students, they have been very generous for decades for students meeting full need, but they require the CSS profile. So the financial aid process is not as easy as SIs. And if you think SI is hard, wait till you do for financial aid. And if you miss them on Monday, feel free, after you go through all these questions, to answer those questions. I know it's a long answer, but hopefully it answers everyone's questions.
And there are a lot of scholarship and financial aid questions. Before we get there, just another question from the form was, what is the status of SAT and ACT scores in the admissions process? Even for schools that don't require it, is it still a good idea to take the test because it could still help? Or if scores are not required, are they not looked at for any applicants?
Okay, I'm going to give you a different response for every grade level. Because one thing you can count on in life and in college admissions is change. Number one, yeah, for the class of 2025, if they have a school that is test free, who are those schools? We're talking about University of Washington, which is a public university in Washington, the UC campus, all 9 of them, the Cal States, from Cal Poly to San Francisco State to San Diego to San Marcos. All of those schools are what's called test free. So they will not look at test scores. So even if a student has a perfect SAT or ACT score, they're like, we don't look at, because it was voted on, and before COVID as well, because they knew that test scores really do not represent a student's ability. There's so much research and data about that. You can see it on that site on Fair Test. And so that's not going to change for those campuses for years. So whether you're a senior, sophomore, junior, if they did take, like juniors, if you're going to be taking an AP English language test, yeah, there's a test, even though there's not a course for it, and you get a score of 3 or higher, they'll look at that. Colleges do give you some credit for that, but not SAT or ACT. Okay, now let's go to what's on the website. And I'm going to scroll down. If you saw, there's over 2,000 schools. Well, here, 85 test free, which you have an example of that. And now we have about 2,000 schools that are test optional, meaning, hey, if you do have scores that are above average for that school, send them in. Our HBCUs, like Clark Atlanta University, is a test optional school, but if you want their merit scholarships, then you submit some test scores. If you meet the criteria and the GPA, they'll give you some free money out there. So, but does that mean if I don't submit test scores for admissions, do I get penalized? For those who don't know me, I've been doing this for 30 years. And Bowdoin College, a school in Maine that's been doing test option for 50 years because they believe in the mission of giving access to students, says if you go test optional, it's test free. If you want to hear a little bit more about it, SI does have, and I apologize if the sound goes off, does have on our homepage of our channel, good, I did put the silence off, about a little bit more about test optional. But there are some schools that are not on this list that we were talking about, like UT Austin, University of Georgia, all the public schools in Florida, the military campus. And you may have heard of a few schools who are saying, hey, we need these test scores. They were test option, but now they're not, like MIT. But now their numbers of students from various backgrounds have really decreased. It really has hurt them. So you have to make a family decision. Do you want your student to go to a school that tests required? So for example, all the Jesuit schools, if you've never seen all the Jesuit colleges and universities, let's see if I can pull it up really quick. All of them are test optional, except for one of them right now, which is Georgetown University. So you just have to research the school. Is it really worth all that time and effort? Sorry, the image is not coming up. Oh, here we go. Is that one school required? Because that's going to take a lot of time, the studying, the preparation for that test. And if that's a skill, you already know from your test that you took into SI, hey, do I score above average? Because those schools are going back to test required, especially if they're private schools, are really heavily looking at those test scores. But if I speak to UT Austin, which I did yesterday, hey, your test required, sometimes they just use it for management reasons, meaning they can't profile every school for all the applicants they have. So they use it as a screening, as like a cutoff for schools so they can read on that. And every school does it differently, but they said, listen, if a kid's test scores, and I'm quoting now, are below our average, we look at the application holistically. We'll look at all their activities, their recommendation, their transcript, what type of courses they've taken. So for the junior class, there are a lot of schools like USC has not made a firm decision. Boston College has not made a firm decision yet. So while you're waiting for them to decide, and they have the right to decide until August 1st, 2025, ask if it's worth it. Remember, there's 2,000 schools that are still test optional. And then for the class of 27 and beyond, hopefully most of those answers will be asked, but a college can change it. And why would they change it? It's just based on what their board members believe and the success for their students when they're on campus.
So much amazing information, Ms. Vaccaro, and resources. And what we'll do is I'm compiling a list of all the resources that Ms. Vaccaro is sharing, and we'll put them in the next email as well with the recording of this video. Okay, let's jump to scholarship questions, because there's a lot of those, and there's a lot of FAFSA questions. So, one, what is the best way to look for scholarships? Mm-hmm. And then, is there a list being kept by SI of available scholarships?
How ironic you say, is there a list? Well, we have collected for our beautiful Magis students a list here, and basically where all this is coming from. I have done is highlighted if, like, for example, like the ELF scholarship is coming up for senior. It's a local scholarship. We've had a lot of Magis students take advantage of that. Jack Kent Cooke is a 4-year scholarship for at any college or university in the nation. We've also, like the Professional Business Women Conference for our ladies out there. We've had students who won it. So we kind of highlight a lot of different scholarships. So I tell students, hey, if this is not updated, please, 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 just let me know and I'll update it. Now, I know your parents like, I need access. This is when you're once a week, you meet with your students and you check in. Now, what I also have done on the top is search engines. And I only recommend some of these I am going to actually remove. Ms. Hernandez doesn't know this. I went to a conference last week, and when I talk to families and students, I want to give you information. I hope someone give my own child. That's all I could promise you. I'm going to tell you what I want. I hope someone tell my own child. If you disagree, it's okay, but always look at the data. Look at what the colleges are saying with the federal government. So I did some homework, and you'll see a lot of advertising like FastWeb and scholarships.com. But you'll notice, like, you may not see these other programs as much for scholarships and such. Like this is for the Latinx community and such, and on top of that, a lot of other resources. Fastweb.com, scholarships.com. If you go and create an account, they will sell your information of your student. Students go like, oh my God, why does I have so much email? They're selling your information. But there's 2 sites that doesn't. Our federal government has no interest in selling your information. So Career One Stop is run by the federal government. Also, you can find a lot of different things, not just scholarships, but careers, finding. So if you literally just go into the site and put scholarships, and I know some of you out there have some beautiful older kids. They even have it for older kids as well too. So there is a scholarship finder that's out there for various different grade levels. And you can see for bachelor's degree, high school degree, look at all these scholarships. Just did a podcast interview with them, Get Schooled. It's been around since the 90s. For those of you who are MTV fans out there, that you may have advertised, and they have a lot of other free resources. They even edit essays for free. It's been a nonprofit that's been around for a long time. Look at all the variety of scholarships that are out here. So it's really a great resource for you. That's Get Schooled. And I did mention a podcast, right? So there is on here, you'll see our podcast where we talk to other individuals from the Federal Financial Aid Office, to other organizations, which will talk about scholarships. But now I want a reality check. Did you know at the Magis workshop, we've been telling your students to turn in their Voice of Democracy scholarship, that they could get $34,000 in cash directly to them? Anyone want a new car? And it was due last week. No one turned it in. I did extend it for next week, but remember, it's a short week. So that will be at Monday at the workshop. And what's happening is, think about your student's schedule. I have all my classes. Oh my God, there was a college fair today. Oh my God, I have this, and then I have that, and I have this, and that. And that's even the after school part. It's really hard to schedule time. Now, I'm not saying not to do scholarships. People know, big fan of scholarships, because also it's a great way to acknowledge your student about their talents. Look, I still remember a student who won the Courage to Grow scholarship. It was $600, and then she put on her application, I'm the first person at SI to ever win this scholarship. Only $600, but that acknowledgement stood out. But what's their schedule? But this is where most of our students have been successful. Did you know there are 70 colleges out there that meet full need? And we're not even talking about merit scholarships as well. And the nice thing is, if you go on Common App, you can go and there is scholarship information. So if you want it, when you go to, now I'm having find a college, my apologies. This feature, they do have a feature, not only finding serving institutions, which the score option does not have, but it also shows the different aid. What's need-based aid? Hey, the school costs $90,000. My family could only pay $5,000 a year. I don't have any other assets. I'm talking about extra property, a big savings account, stocks, options, etc. And then with merit aid, if you're a millionaire, they'll still give you the money, but it's based on your talents, leadership, right? It's not just GPA and test scores. So that's a great feature to use. So that's how I would recommend scholarships.
Great question. Lots of money out there, so make sure your kids are looking at that as early as 9th grade. There are scholarships for students currently in 9th grade. Okay, there's a question about recommendation letters related to scholarships. Do students get copies of their recommendation letters from SCORE to use for scholarship applications? If so, how?
Before I answer that question, I want to show you the student page, which is going to answer your question. So this is not an actual student. There is something here called FERPA and waiver of rights. Colleges will ask every student, hey, do you give us the right to waive your right to inspect and review any confidential letters and statements? So why are they asking that? So let's just pretend I speak to my colleague about Miss Hernandez and I go, oh my God, she's so amazing. If I need something, she's there. If I mess up, she understands. She's such a supportive person. By the way, it's true. And if she's not in the room, that person, oh, wow, she's talking about something legit. Like this is something is her truth. It's an honorable recommendation and comments. Yes, send the love to Miss Hernandez. But so now if the teacher does the same, and that assigned college counselor, which they get spring of their sophomore year, again, the school goes, okay, this student has not seen that letter recommendation, and this is this institution's truth about that student, right? So this is very different than if you're used to like with employers, like, hey, can you give me a reference? Hey, what would you say? Now, you may say, hey, I could put not granted, but that's not SI's policy. So, and why? Because that is something we want to create a fairness for all our students. And also it helps your student to have a leg up. So what can you do? Well, guess what? Your beautiful students starting sophomore year will be, they may be changing the terminology, not surveys, for plans. I don't know if we're going to start that this year, but look at all these surveys that they can fill out to help make sure that if they're like a little bit of an introvert, it's hard for them to talk about all their talents in front of their college counselor or their teachers. You have all this opportunity to do that. You as a parent and guardian, I'm not on the parent side right now. It's pretty much the same, but you will get a survey too for that college counselor for you to advocate. And then the college counselor and then with Ms. Hernandez and their personal academic counselor and Mr. Lorenzo, we also get another picture of who that student is outside of the classroom. So remember, you're part of that piece of chiming in. This is why my student's great. Or, hey, they had some hiccups, I don't know about you. All my kids do. And I love it because that means they're human. And then, but I said, but you know what? They got stronger because of this, or they asked this or that. So do know that feedback will be asked of you, beginning starting slowly with sophomores, and then more with juniors, and then you as parents and guardians junior year, and then and there'll be like one last one senior year for the students.
Okay, so let's move to hopefully that answer your question, Ms. Alva, but we want to move to more of like the money. Where is the money, right? So one question from the form was, how many CSU and UC applications do Sobrino scholars get for free? Will there be workshops for CSS profile? So two really great questions, a lot of information to just share. But go ahead, Ms. Vaccaro.
Yes. Okay. So paying for college. I mean, no, not paying for college, just paying for college application as a parent. Oh my goodness. And if you don't know, my older kids come from a blended family, and that was a very lively conversation that came from that. But what is your beautiful students are able to obtain, right? So as I mentioned, all students, you saw, remember that first Common App screen? Some schools will say, hey, we're going to waive your fee waiver. You'll see that question a lot for your students on Common Application. And I'm going to go through all these different schools, but I just want to make sure. So whether they're Sobrino or not, they may be given an offer for the application fee to be waived. So just know that that is an option. They usually are not going to be like the Johns Hopkins University, but it would be other schools that just want their students' application. Then for UC schools, there are fee waivers that our Sobrino kids get, and there's 4 of them. So they could get those from their college counselor or from myself, right? So and then and I'll be honest, I'm a little bit strict about it, because I'm like, let me check all your courses first before I give you the fee waiver. Why? Mistakes that are made on there. So I just want to make sure that student not just get their application submitted, but has the best chance of getting in as well too. So do know there's 4. And now some students, if their income is low enough, the UCs will grant automatically 4 campuses for free. And what out of that 4, one of those schools should be a likely school. We're talking about Merced or Riverside. UCs provide a lot of financial aid. It's, I mentioned some schools are 90,000. Well, UCs are 42. If you demonstrate need and they meet 70% of that need, that helps a lot. So before is the max. It can't go any higher than that. Then for the Cal State University, again, that student that meets that income criteria, they don't advertise that. So not all our Sobrino students meet this, can also get 4 CSU fee waivers automatically from the Cal State University. It doesn't matter if it's Cal Poly San Luis Obispo or Cal Humboldt. Sometimes students like, I only want to apply for 2. I'm like, why not apply to 4? Put a challenge school like that, like Cal Poly, San Jose. Yes, San Jose is a challenge school. San Diego, and maybe put a likely school that's on there, San Marcos, Humboldt, to have that option. But if they don't qualify for the income, and they'll find out automatically at the end of their application, we did have a workshop about that. And then Sobrino students will be given 2. So once their application is checked by any college counselor, including myself, they will see our wonderful Mora. She is our counseling coordinator, and then she will make sure those costs are covered for 2 of them. But if they submit it ahead of time, we don't do any refunds. Now, that was a mouthful. Then the next process is the CSS profile. So for all our, so let me explain what that is, because wait, I heard CSS Pro for financial. Why are they asking me for money if I need money? Okay, so we talked about UC CSUs a moment ago. They are what I call FAFSA only schools, or if the student is undocumented, the California DREAM Act application schools. So those are the only financial aid forms which are free that's available. But those schools that are very generous, like Santa Clara University, that's Fordham University, I just gave you a whole bunch of met full need, Colby, Bates, Boston College, they need more information because the FAFSA is a quick application. They're just going to look at your income, look at your family size, see how much, your taxes are paid. But what if I just spend a whole bunch of money on, for braces? What if there was, I'm supporting family members outside of my home? FAFSA and California Dream Act won't ask that question. That's not the guidelines. But the CSS profile will ask everything from both biological parents. So do know that's a little bit different. And I'm sure there'll be more questions later on about that. But they'll ask everything else. Give a truer picture so the student that those colleges could give those needs. The CSS profile is not free. So just know that all Sabrina students, that will be covered as well. And again, thank you, Ms. Hernandez, for putting the chat box. Ms. Mora is their counseling coordinator, and she will handle that make sure they send a lot of love. She does a lot of work that a lot of people don't know. She's the glue to our counseling department.
Do you need a separate College Board account in regards to the CSS profile?
It depends. So, like I said, I come from a blended family. Hope this is how, and I've also remarried. So for my older kids, mom and dad are not together, right? So the student will choose, one parent will have their College Board login. So my son gave me his College Board login, right? I didn't create a new one, right? But dad is his non-custodial parent, right? So he's the other parent. So then we put in his email, then College Board will email him for him to create an account, right? So that does occur. Whether, this is just a general statement, whether the other parent is providing financial support or not, the colleges require both parents' information, whether they're divorced, if there was a prenup, all that stuff. But now let's take for my youngest child, right? Where mom and dad are together, and that what happens is we just need that one College Board because we're sending the information together. Why is it separate for the CSS profile? Because confidentiality. Do I want my ex to have my finances? No. Is it okay for my husband? Yes, of course, right? So that information shared. The nice thing about FAFSA, it's simplified. Whether you're married or not, it's just one parent, but that's that custodial parent, meaning the parent that provides the most financial support to that student, whether they live with you or not.
When do parents or when is the FAFSA form due? When do we submit that?
Before or by December 1st, it should be out. But if you're very dependent on that financial aid award letter, apply broadly, right? Look at those CSS profile schools. So if your senior does not have a CSS profile school on their list, maybe they need to revisit that, but they need to speak with their college counselor about that. And this is just an advice just for the seniors. And if you're curious what those schools are, they're on here. But every colleges require the FAFSA because the federal government does give money. And what you would do, one parent will create an account. If you already have a student in college, you only need it once. And then the student would create an account. You will need to know your social security number. Your students have their social security number on their cell phones, a lot of them. That's a no-no. There's a lot of hacking that goes on. So please, that's your child number one, okay? Over break, make sure your child memorizes their social security number. And if they don't have a social security number, you let them know there are still options. If you don't know, Ms. Hernandez and myself are Dreamer liaisons at St. Ignatius, along with the rest of the team in the counseling department, if needed, regarding about if they are dreamers out there. So this is an account you want to keep, not lose the password, and you can start that process on there. But if you are also a senior and you do have a CSS profile school on your list, let's say like Babson, Boston University, Bowdoin, by the way, all of those I just mentioned meet full need, then you want to start that CSS profile now and submit before Halloween. Get a treat versus a trick, because then if you miss deadlines, you may not get all that need met. So they're very firm and they may ask for additional information. Now, what I told yesterday to our class of 26, 27, hopefully this will be all resolved. I did say that last year. So by October 1st, all the forms will be out and ready. And then again, submit by Halloween so you get a treat versus a trick and you don't miss any deadlines.
Do you have to include your 401k or 403b and FAFSA application? And then if a student has a savings account with a parent's name on it, does that get reported as a student bank account or with the parent's bank account?
All right, you ready for the answers, people? Okay, so colleges of FAFSA and CSS profile will ask about your pension, your 401k, whatever retirement fund, your IRA. And you may be going, no, hold on, take a deep breath. They ask you that so you don't mix it with your savings, your stocks. So literally, and I don't know we'll have time, but if you use this tool, My Intuition, I always do this with the students at workshops. And there is a video on our SI TV channel, over 100 videos on there. I just watch them when I do dishes. And if you have $1 billion in your retirement, you can still get financial aid. Why? It's your retirement. Hold on. I want you to know, but the contribution, we did have a beautiful family who were just savvy. Like, we're going to put as much as we can towards our retirement. So they took advantage at the time. The max amount was about $20,000 they took out. So the college doesn't look at their retirement money, but the contribution they can. Why? Well, you have access to those funds, right? So the family was shocked, like, wait, why do we have to pay $20,000 more? We really have nothing at the end of the day. They only apply to FAFSA only schools. So I remember talking to college, when can they appeal, to talk about they're giving extra money to family members outside the household. Oh, after the deadline to register. How are you supposed to find out how much you're going to pay for it? That is our UCs at our Cal State schools. I bring it up every year, how that's not true equity for our families. That's why I really push a lot of our CSS profile schools, because you can say that up front, not later on those forms. So they will not look at retirement, but they could look at how much contribution you make that year. And what's the year they're going to look at? It's called prior. So seniors, it's going to be 2023. For the juniors, remember 2026, prior -2, taxes of 2024. But when you do report any retirement, your savings account, any assets, it's the value of that date. But the tax forms is a prior year. They're going to look at that. Now, there was another question I messed up. Oh, savings account. All right. I'm just going to make it really quick and then explain if you're in the stuck situation. If you have any money or assets, please move it all over to your parent guardian account, right? If you need to open up another account that's in, let's just say Miss Hernandez, yes, I am that old, is my daughter. Oh my gosh, and she's wonderful and gorgeous. If she's my daughter, I'm going to open up an account under Ana Maria Vaccaro, and I'm just going to know and nickname it is hers. And she's a beneficiary just in case something happens, because things happen, but it's still in my name only. So, and why? Because they're only going to use a certain percentage of that in what's in my name. Why? Because I have bills. I may have rent. I may have a mortgage, have utilities. I got to put food on the table. I got to take muni, right? All those things. But if you're students, so if my beautiful daughter, Miss Hernandez, if she has all the money in her name, and I will answer the other one next, then they're going to say, oh, it's $10,000. We can use all that $10,000 for college, because she should not have any dependents. Like she doesn't have any dependents. She doesn't have to have any, she's not an independent, so she's still dependent living with her parents. So she doesn't have all this other responsibilities. But wait. What if I opened a shared account? Well, so if it's a shared account, then you will need to report half of that on your students and then half of it on yours. On that. So that, remember, that's both your accounts. You can't just say, oh, it's just my account, but you're both signers on the account. And then if you have other family donating money or making stocks and bonds, remember, anything in the student's name will be used in a higher percentage for financial aid figures.
But is it better to have a 529 in the parents' or grandparents' name?
Oh, We got some smart people in the room. Did you know that? Oh my goodness. Okay, so just know what I'm telling you, the policy can change every year. Okay, so right now, let's just say we applied to College X, which is a CSS profile. That school has every right, when you're asking for money from them, hey, what are there any 529 accounts where the student is the beneficiary? So if that's a question, which I'll repeat, is there any 529 accounts where the student is the beneficiary? You got to tell the truth. You didn't know that? Because if you don't, I've seen it. A college has taken financial aid away from a student. So the truth shall set you free. Okay, so that's one. But not every college so far don't ask that question. Oh, interesting. So what if I did put it in, Noni's name, right? What if that's the case on there? So, right, the grandparent's name, and my child's a beneficiary. Well, what they if they ask the parent, hey parent, let's say, remember, I'm the parent. Hey, Anna Maria Vaccaro, do you have a 529 in your name for your child? And I put in the grandparent's name. No, they do not, right? If your aunt has a 529 and your child's a beneficiary, and they don't ask, hey, does any 529? Then it's not in there. But then let's just say your 529, you're big. Let's say you have $300,000 in there, because everyone in the family, instead of buying Christmas presents on Amazon, they've been putting money in that 529, right? And you start paying this big lump sum because remember, 529 doesn't pay you back. They pay the university directly. So they have strict laws. Then the following year, like, hey, we asked you a question about, do you have any other resources? And you said no. So sometimes some families will have 529s, they'll save senior year. Be very careful when you strategize like that, because like I said, things can change and your students can ask the colleges about the 529s, but all that information will come up on the CSS profile when they're released. Was there one other question, Ms. Hernandez, that I missed?
Yeah, one just came in. Okay, last one, folks. Please don't ask any more questions until the next one. What box do you check on the UC applications to let them know you're part of Magis?
I think I need to show them. And also, I wish you asked UC, CSU, and Common App. Yes, on all three forms, let them know that they're part of our wonderful program. So there is a section for each. I'm trying to get into it quickly. And that's an important one. Now, someone would say, came up at a workshop, well, can anyone just write that? Well, just to let you know, every year, every campus, 200 to 300, sometimes more, not only get verified, but they lose their admissions to the colleges. Why? They didn't tell the proof, right? So if somebody, let me get to the section real quickly. I'm getting there. It's under activities, under awards. Students get, and it's right here, education preparation program under the activity section. They could get verified. Just to let you know, they're even checking if how much of their essays are produced by AI. If it is generated by AI for a search and threshold, they're going to send emails from December 1st to Valentine's Day. Hey, you need to show us proof X, Y, and Z. If the student misses that email, or true story, by the way, or misses it, which did happen to an SI student, they'll cancel all their applications. No excuses, no appeal. So just know that's happening. Okay, so that's through the UC. For the Cal State, I don't think we have, it takes longer for me to log in there. But basically it's the very last page called the supplemental page. So they ask about, hey, are you an AVID, Upper Brown? And at the very end says other. That other section is where they would enter that. And then here we go, we're almost there. Under the education on Common App, Common Base Organization, So if it's just one, we do know some students are in college track or maybe first year San Francisco. So they would put St. Ignatius Magis and wonderful Ms. Hernandez, and here's her contact information on there. And again, your students will have more information, not only on our workshop. So we have one Monday after school. Are they checking their G-chats? Yes, do you know that each grade level, and we're going to start with freshmen soon, has a G-chat of information tips? Oh my. And then don't forget, you can always tell when Ms. Hernandez is posting versus Ms. Vaccaro because it looks glamorous. We have an Instagram at St. Ignatius Magis. And one last thing, I did not mention what I did over the summer is if you're like, this is too much, I have to look at this link, that link, and I always periodically every semester update it. I created a website where everything is in one place. So if you want our podcast, it's right over there. There's other resources on how to search for colleges, a free test prep. Why pay? But remember, is that worth their time? I do believe a lot in, at the end of the day, at the end of your life, are you going to be grateful you do testing? I am biased for test prep as a mother too. None of my kids were part of it because you're only young once. And I think school is test prep, to be honest. Enrichment programs, other videos, all the application, Common App, UC, CSUs, video tips regarding about personal statement, other information about financial aid. Did you know? Government free money and aid, the middle class scholarship, the CSS profile, more scholarship information. See, you could go on there. Tax benefits. I don't know how your tax accountant is, but I want you to get some more money back. Creating your resume, right? Other spotlights that are happening, military academy, visual performing arts, transferring. We just have a new podcast from Santa Monica College, #1 transfer into UCLA, and many other videos as well.
Thank you so much, Ms. Vaccaro. I do just want to remind, especially senior parents, class of 2025, if your child needs any support with writing their essays for colleges, writing essays for scholarships, we now have a college writing coach. She is her name is Dr. Zander. She might even be your child's teacher. She is a Spanish teacher at SI. She is a certified college counselor as well. She reads for LMU. And she has been a great addition to our staff. And so she offers 30-minute one-on-one college writing coaching sessions on Tuesdays and Wednesdays from 3 to 4 p.m. And your child will just need to sign up for one of those slots, or 2 of those slots, or 3 of those slots. There are some students who are really taking advantage of it, and signing up regularly to meet with her. So please ask your child if they need that one-on-one 30 minutes, to just check in with someone to get them to proofread or just help them brainstorm. Dr. Zander is available to do that. Thank you, Ms. Vaccaro, and thank you, everyone. Be safe, stay cool,